Welcome to VyCast, where we bring a blend of knowledge, expertise, and fun to the world of finance. Stay tuned for our exciting episode packed with insights and practical tips that will help you achieve your financial goals. Welcome to VyCast, the podcast from VyStar Credit Union, where we help you do good and bank better. Today, we're talking about something that's impacting families across our region in a very real way: financial stress and what we can do about it. So VyStar recently released the State of Financial Stability in the Southeast in partnership with TransUnion, a comprehensive study examining the financial health of residents across Jacksonville, Orlando, and Atlanta. The study pairs what residents say they're feeling with real credit data and insights from nonprofit and community partners, because financial health isn't just a banking issue, it is a community issue. And to help bring this to life, I'm joined by two leaders who see these challenges from different perspectives. Jonathan Hansen, Senior Vice President, VyStar, Marketing Strategy and Member Engagement, and Coretta Hill, COO, United Way of Northeast Florida. Thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Thank
All
you.
right, Jonathan, I want to start with the big picture. Why was it important for VyStar to partner with TransUnion and take a deeper, data-driven look at financial stability across the Southeast region?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in general, we were very concerned to see that the majority of our markets had considered themselves financially distressed based on that Wallet Hub survey about a year ago. So we really wanted to dig into that and understand how can we really help members of these residents and members of the community really improve their financial confidence overall. So if you look at our data, we have very good data about our members. They're our members. TransUnion, who we partnered with, has excellent data on the market. The United Way has excellent community research with their ALICE report. And then we had over 200 community partners who were also able to weigh in and provide valuable insights to this study. So I think if you look at the combination of all these resources, it really gave us an advantage in not only identifying the problem, but what we can do to help them.
And in Coretta, your organization, as Jonathan mentioned, provided the ALICE data that helped inform this study. And so from a community perspective, how closely do these findings reflect what you are actually seeing in the community? And take a few moments to walk us through what that ALICE data included.
I would love to. And thank you again. Charlene. So first, let's start with the ALICE, United for ALICE report itself. ALICE is an acronym that stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed. And essentially, these are individuals who work every day and many times often may work two jobs, quite frankly, but they are still struggling to make ends meet, still struggling to pay for those basic necessities. And many of the findings in the study mirrored the ALICE data, which shows that 40% of Northeast Florida residents are struggling again to survive. And what is also really relevant from the report is just the emotional and mental stress that financial stress causes. And the correlation and the connection is very real. It's not only something that's shown and demonstrated in the ALICE United for ALICE study, it's also seen in all of our real-time data that comes through our offices every day. I want to just share too, with this United for ALICE study, it is a 2-year lag. The report itself comes out every year. And so the study and the results that we see today, the 40%, it actually makes up its data that represents 2023. So we'll see 2024 data here soon. And what is also really important is the recognition of the seniors and also young adults. Many times we kind of don't think about age demographics and how the struggle to survive and financially and even with income coming into the home, whether it's retirement or just beginning their employment or right out of college, they're still struggling to make ends meet. And this study and the work that VyStar is doing is very incredibly important to addressing that need.
And Jonathan, when you looked at the results of the study, considering all of the information that was in there, and as Coretta just said, 40% of people are struggling. People with jobs are struggling. Yes. 40%, that's a big chunk of our population. And as she mentioned, that leads back into those stressors about struggling and how do I survive? How do I support my family? How do I support myself? How do I get myself through through retirement? What stood out to you in these findings?
Yeah, I mean, it actually was extremely relevant and right on line with what our findings were. So a little over 40% or the majority of respondents claimed that finances was the top stressor in their overall list of stressors. So if you think about, like, as a parent, I have plenty of stressors, but finances being at the top there is significant. I think in addition to that, we saw that fewer than half of the respondents were able to pay their bills on time. So if you're struggling to pay your bills on time, that doesn't really leave you a lot of room to pay off debt. In addition to that, about 62% of respondents said they were spending as much as or more than their current income. So again, if you're spending more than you're making, it really makes it hard to save or pay off debt, or even think about paying off debt for that matter. And then 40% of people also said that they were more worried about debt this year than they were last year. So I think it's obvious that there's a trend here that people are getting more and more concerned about their ability to manage debt than the amount of debt that they have and whether that's really manageable or not.
And Coretta, you heard Jonathan talk so much about stress, right? Yes. How the study revealed people are under such financial stress. So how are you seeing that stress show up in the families that you're serving? And then it's kind of an obvious question, but why are families struggling to keep up, if not get ahead, just to keep up?
Yeah, no, a really great question, and it's actually one that is a lot of us are asking. So I'll start with what we're seeing. One of the pieces of data that we use, the United for Alice study, is actually the foundation. It's the why United Way does what we do. All of the work that we invest in throughout the community is within that foundation of serving our most vulnerable community members. And we often think about individuals who live in poverty. The Alice study is actually to bring to light that people who live in poverty, the assumption is those who are not working are the ones struggling. The reality is that there's another layer to that, and so many individuals, as we just discussed here, these are our healthcare workers and retail workers, others who are
teachers,
civil
servants,
absolutely,
yeah, so many of those folks are providing such critical services to
absolutely,
us.
Absolutely. And the reality is that this struggle is not because of they're not lazy, this isn't, the narrative around why they're struggling. Again, oftentimes they're working more than one job, but the economy and the wages have not kept up with each other. And with that in mind, when individuals who barely have enough to survive, whenever there are any instances or kind of things that happen that are unplanned, it could be a car repair, it could be a medical expense, they're into anything in savings to help accommodate them. So without the ability to prepare for the unexpected, and when wages are not keeping up with the cost of economy, that is when you see the struggle. And our call center, United Way operates, United Way operates 211 and 988 call centers. And one of the things that we see every single day, actually today, in fact, we take calls on Tuesdays for other organizations to make appointments for individuals who are struggling. And 40% of those calls every single Tuesday are related to rental assistance or utility assistance. And the reality is that increases in rental payments or the cost of rent or the cost of housing has increased year to year by 3% in our community, in our region. And so when you have increased cost and the wage gap, in addition to, again, the inflation, the cost of living to maintain a basic to survive, that is when you will continue to see the struggle that individuals who are hardworking family members every single day who continue to struggle and have to resort to credit card debt and other ways just to survive.
Yep, just to survive. And we've heard people have to buy their groceries on credit cards.
Yes.
And Jonathan, let's backtrack a little bit because Coretta mentioned savings, right? Folks don't have savings. Can you share a little bit about last year's VyStar Savings Challenge? And you had kind of referenced the Wallet Hub study. Can you kind of walk us backwards a little bit, and then we'll talk about what we're doing today to address the issues in the study?
Yeah, absolutely. So last year, there was a Wallet Hub survey along with Forbes, and it ranked 3 of our major markets, Orlando, Jacksonville, and Atlanta, within the top 5 as the most financially distressed residents in the United States. So that was extremely concerning, and our response to that was our savings challenge. So in order to become the most financially distressed, it was based on your ability to establish $1,000 or more in emergency savings. So our savings challenge was just about that, to help people understand tools and resources and best practices that they can do to establish that emergency savings, which is really the baseline, I would say, to be able to build and pay off debt and do everything else you need to do once you can cover that emergency expense.
And over 30,000 people participated in the VyStar Savings Challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So having over 30,000 participants just furthered that validation that there was that need, and it was incredible to see that VyStar was able to step in and really fill that meaningful need in the community.
And so walk us through now how we've responded, VyStar has responded to what we found in the study with the VyStar Debt Payoff Challenge, and walk us through how it works.
Sure. So similarly, the Debt Payoff Challenge is really an action-oriented approach that is designed to meet people where they are. It's going to give them free educational tools, resources, and access even to an online community that we've developed. It has a little over 3,000 followers right now, or participants, who share best practices and talk about their progress and how they're able to pay off debt. Plus, at the end of the challenge, 5 participants are going to receive $5,000 each, which is going to help them pay off debt as well. So it's really kind of an exciting challenge. It's very data-driven, and we're focused on responding to those specific needs that we've identified in the study to really help move the needle and help them have achievable, long-term ways to improve their financial confidence and pay off debt.
And tell folks how it starts. You go online and you take a quiz.
Yeah, so essentially you go online, you sign up for the challenge, which is totally free to join, and anyone in the states of Florida and Georgia are able to participate. And essentially you complete the form. Upon completing the form, you're given a financial health quiz, which gives you a score basically to gauge your financial confidence in key areas of spending, borrowing, planning, and saving. Once you receive that score, we're going to send you resources, and not just a ton of resources. It's based on your specific score, which, let's say you have a low confidence in borrowing. We're going to send you resources on how to increase your confidence on borrowing or savings or planning, etc. So once you receive that, we're going to continuously send you tips and different best practices throughout the challenge, all the way through the end of the challenge at the end of April. And then we will announce the winners of that, the 5 winners of those $5,000 prizes as well. So again, major win here would be for members of the community and our members as well to really educate themselves on the tools and resources available to them in their community that can help them reach their long-term goals.
And I know Coretta had mentioned like manageable, having manageable debt, unmanageable debt. I want to ask you another question, Jonathan, about that, because they found that in the study that people thought they had manageable debt, but based on all the data showed that they really had unmanageable debt, right? Because they were living beyond their means. They didn't have savings. They were in debt. The financial calculators on the financial fitness page. Can you walk us through a little bit the financial calculators? Because I always know when I'm looking at it and I go, okay, how long is this going to take me to pay this off? In my head, I have an answer, but when I put it in the calculator, the numbers don't lie. And I'm like, wow, I'm really going to have to increase that payment. So could you talk about the other resources that are also available on the financial fitness page for, maybe when the challenge is over, including the calculators and the videos that people really can use to educate themselves? And if you're trying to educate your youth, right, your children about building financial confidence early, what a great way.
Absolutely.
I know we had previously talked to someone going through the VyStar Savings Challenge, and she didn't receive financial education, but she knew how important it was, and she wanted to teach her son, but she didn't have the skill sets in order to be able to teach her son. Can you share a little bit about what tools and resources are out there for everybody, the whole community? You don't have to be a member.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have the free over 60 financial management tools and resources that cover everything from basic money management skills all the way to sophisticated tools like how to plan for retirement. We also have calculators that'll show you, one way, like going back to the study, fewer than half people were able to pay their bills on time. So how do you help with that is maybe lower your bills. So one way to do that is to possibly refinance your auto loan. Maybe we can help you on your monthly payment there. Refinance your mortgage. Maybe we can help you on your monthly payment there. Consolidate debt. So we have calculators that'll show you, if you were to do this, how much would that save you on a monthly basis? and then we can educate you on how you can use that savings to then pay down your debt longer term. So there's a variety of tools to let's work with what you have. You don't necessarily have to be super sophisticated or make a ton of money. We can definitely work with all scenarios and help you plan the best outcome for your individual goals.
And if meeting in person with someone is more your style versus online, they can just walk into a branch and meet with one of our representatives there.
Yeah, so branches are totally open to help with this. And the great thing about it is that this is what our branches do every day.
And Coretta, hearing what resources are out there provided by VyStar, but we started this is really a community problem. It's a community challenge. Can you share a little bit as we wrap up what our community partners are doing for folks, also for free, also resources that are available?
So many incredible resources available. I'll be honest, Charlene, there aren't enough resources.
Yeah.
So I do want to, I think that's important to share because United Way, we are committed to addressing with many, many partners those short-term needs. And I'll share just a few ways we're doing that so that families are able to have that stability, to create that stability that gives them space to breathe. Because oftentimes when they're calling into the center, it's usually the last resort. Families, they try to exhaust all of their options. They've, extended, credit card debt or exhausted whatever savings they've had or any of these other untraditional means of
and we certainly don't want them going to
and
payday loans and predatory lending.
And it does happen. Unfortunately, we know that. That's those places stay in business for a reason, unfortunately. And so we are right there when they are most vulnerable. And one way that our centers are supporting, and I say our centers, I'm speaking for 211 and 988 specifically right now, is there are a number of nonprofit partners who are in a database, and we make referrals to these organizations. Many of those organizations also provide that assistance, whether it be for rental assistance, deposit, utility. Food is another one of the top resources, and mental health support, whether it's peer counseling by one of our partners here tomorrow or counseling with another great resource that we have a partnership with NAMI and many other mental health resources, because many times when they're calling in for financial support, they also need that emotional support as well. So that resource or that database, that list of organizations who are supporting so many thousands across Northeast Florida, just the data just this year from our fiscal year starting July 1 alone, we have seen again that 40% and that 40% represents those who are calling about financial assistance, and it's that network who's are reaching out to them and responding. However, they often also are limited in their resources. If I have time, I would love to share one other resource that, because it is April or close to our tax season, and we have a free financial support for families, or actually tax assistance support for families who are struggling financially or who are or anyone really can take advantage of this resource. But it does help families, our Alice families, because it keeps them from paying hundreds of dollars, again, from predatory places to get the quick return, but they're only getting, a percentage of their return. And this allows for them to get their taxes done by trained professionals, trained volunteers, by the IRS for free. And we have many tax sites across the community. That's also a resource that 211 can share. If you call, they will let any individual know where the tax site is located close to their zip code or their residence. So
and we have a VyStar branch in St. Johns County who partners with United Way.
You do.
To do taxes.
You do.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I was about to say that VyStar provides us that resource to provide, allowing the ability to provide those taxes for free for folks who are struggling. And so many other opportunities. It's the collective, the really coordinated collaboration among partners that is helping families and meeting them where they are so that we can then help them come out of debt to create stronger, long-lasting sustainability for their families today and in the future.
And the key is you're not alone. People are in the same situation, and we don't want people to feel ashamed or embarrassed if they have debt, because some people do. They say, they don't want people to know that they've gotten themselves in debt.
Yes.
And we don't want you to feel that way, because if the study shows anything, it shows that there's so many people out there in the same situation who feel the same way, and help is out there.
Help is absolutely out there. And if I can also share one of the, we have an exercise that we do that you may be familiar with, Charlene. It is called the Meet Alice simulation. And we actually conduct that. We facilitate that exercise with business partners like VyStar and others in the community to really provide an understanding of exactly what you said. It isn't anything to be ashamed or embarrassed about, because quite frankly, as we see in the data, a large majority of our community, a good majority of our community, are struggling, especially in our underserved areas. And so what we do this simulation to help others have more understanding about what families go through. They themselves come in and they simulate a family that is struggling, and they meet all of these obstacles along the way, from transportation to being able to afford high quality childcare or early learning care.
A child is sick, you have to stay home from work to take it. I did the exercise.
Yes, did you?
It was very eye-opening. I thought I walked in like, I know what to do.
Yes.
And within minutes,
Yes.
I was in a dire situation.
Yes. So we continue to educate. And because we think we know, just like that calculator, we think we know the answer or how, but then once you get more understanding, it hopefully creates a sense of not only desensitizes, but a sense of understanding that provides solutions. And we just have to continue to have the conversation, continue to do great studies like the study that you did in partnership with TransUnion. And that will provide us with that the opportunity to be strategic, because we cannot solve this this challenge, which is a community challenge, alone.
And Jonathan, as we wrap up, you want to remind folks where they can find the help?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can visit VyStarCU.org if you're ready to take the next step, /debt payoff challenge, and sign up for the challenge. And again, it's totally free and open to anyone who lives in the state of Florida and Georgia.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for joining us on this very important topic.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me.
And if you'd like to learn more about the study, or you'd like to sign up for the Debt Payoff Challenge, you can go to VyStarCU.org. And of course, thank you all for joining us on this episode of VyCast. Please make sure to subscribe to VyCast wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. You can also follow us on Facebook at VyStar CU, Instagram and YouTube at VyStar Credit Union to give us your thoughts on a topic you'd like us to cover. Thanks so much for joining us again, and we'll see you next time.